At the beginning of 2023, Jonathan Majors was on top of the world, rising to prominence off the backs of solid mid-tier studio films like Hostiles, White Boy Rick, and Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, a notable turn in the successful A24-produced independent film The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and a starring role in the beloved cult HBO show Lovecraft Country. Majors was set to explode right to the top of the A-list with a 1-2 cinematic punch, both as the villain in the latest entry in the Rocky Creed franchise, Diamond Dame Anderson in Creed 3, and more notably as the primary antagonist of the entire next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Kang the Conqueror. A heavyweight heavy set to make his cinematic debut later that summer in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Unfortunately, just as those prominent projects were getting off the ground, controversy reared its ugly head when Majors' ex-girlfriend, British dancer Grace Jabari, accused the actor of assault, claiming Majors had hit her in the head, twisted her arm, and broke her middle finger during an altercation in
New York City.
Sorry, this video deals with dark subject matter, so I have to throw in some levity where I can. Following the accusations, an ugly trial ensued, one that ultimately concluded with reckless assault in the third degree and harassment convictions for Majors, which led to a year-long domestic violence intervention program and probation. Despite the outcome of the trial, Majors maintained his innocence the whole way through, claiming that, while he'd been reckless with Jabari's heart, he never struck a woman in his life, but the damage had been done. In response to the verdict, Marvel promptly fired Majors and pivoted from its Kang storyline entirely, seemingly concluding the character's arc as a minor footnote in the second season of Loki. While much has been made about Majors' fall from grace in regards to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, most have overlooked the existence of the third, arguably most important film starring Majors that was set to debut the same year as Creed and Ant-Man 3. Writer-director Elijah Bynum's Magazine Dreams. Executive produced by Majors himself, alongside notable screenwriter, producer, and director Dan Gilroy, the man behind the Jake Gyllenhaal classic Nightcrawler. Magazine Dreams stars Majors as troubled amateur bodybuilder Killian Maddox, a man who, thanks to a childhood trauma, finds himself unable to relate to the people around him. Over the course of Bynum's film, Majors as Maddox finds himself slipping into an increasingly disturbed mental state due to his all-consuming goal of becoming the greatest bodybuilder alive, his unrequited fandom of top bodybuilder Brad Vanderhorn, played by real-life strongman Mike O'Hearn, and his disastrous efforts at love with Haley Bennett's pretty store clerk, Jessie. Bynum's film is a visually striking yet deeply upsetting portrayal of what loneliness can do to someone, and it features a tour-de-force performance from Majors, and arguably the greatest of his career so far. The actor spends the majority of Magazine Dreams on screen alone and is featured in every single scene in the movie. While the film is slow to reveal the extent of Killian's pain, Majors expresses it all from the off, intuitively conveying the character's stunted growth, fierce determination, and crushing solitude, often without the aid of dialogue. As the film progresses and Killian creeps ever closer to planning something terrible, Majors manages to paint a sympathetic portrait of a man who ironically lacks the charisma of the actor portraying him, but conversely earns the empathy that has, depending on your perspective, justifiably eluded Majors. Simply put, Magazine Dreams is an immaculate drama from a promising young director that will most likely never find a wide audience, all because of the poor real-life behavior of one man. As I noted previously, Magazine Dreams was originally set to debut in December of 2023 following its initial screening at the Sundance Film Festival earlier that January. Though initially independently produced, the film was acquired by Searchlight Pictures, formerly Fox Searchlight Pictures, after the festival. Since Disney bought Fox back in 2019, Searchlight has been an entertainment division of the Mouse House ever since, which means the same people who fired Majors from his high-profile Marvel job also own the rights to his prestige Oscar play. As a result, Magazine Dreams was immediately shelved and eventually dropped by Searchlight altogether, eventually being acquired by the much smaller studio Briarcliff Entertainment, the independent production company responsible for the release of the similarly embattled and nearly equally excellent Donald Trump biopic The Apprentice. Unfortunately, Briarcliff's resources are far more meager than Disney's, and considering they were promoting a film that sat on the shelf for 2 years starring a controversial figure anyway, it wouldn't have made much sense for the studio to sink a lot of money into a wide rollout. Following an anemic commercial push that seemingly only included a single trailer, a single admittedly striking promotional image, and an under-the-radar press tour from Majors where the focus would predictably always shift back to his assault conviction, a matter the actor can't even legally speak on if he wanted to, the film finally rolled out to a miserable financial reception on March 21st of this year. While the initial plan was to expand the release of the film if it performed well, Magazine Dreams only managed to draw $701,365 from the 815 theaters it played in during its opening weekend, a far cry from Briarcliff's already modest goal of only $1 million. From what I've been able to discern, as of the time of this writing, the film's already concluded its theatrical run with the financial tally just above above its initial opening weekend expectations. The only word that can describe a performance like this is disastrous. A film that should have been an awards contender and a guaranteed Best Actor nomination, if not win, for Majors back in 2023, is now an underseen box office bomb in 2025. An impressive financial failure considering the film's production budget of only $10 million. The real tragedy, however, isn't a financial one. It's creative. The fact that a fantastic piece of work from a team of dedicated artists will likely never get the recognition it deserves. Director Elijah Bynum will likely go back to square one, bootstrapping his next independent effort rather than being swallowed up by a major studio to helm their latest sequel or reboot. Wonderful actresses like Taylor Page and Haley Bennett will continue to fly under the radar, waiting for their next big break. And Michael Hearn will continue to be known as the Baby Don't Hurt Me guy on TikTok, rather than as the closeted homosexual who Jonathan Majors on screen. Spoilers, but to be fair, you probably didn't even know this movie existed before clicking on this video. There's an argument to be made that this result isn't fair for Majors either. To be clear, I in no way condone the actor's actions against his former girlfriend, nor do I entertain discussion of his innocence. Majors was tried and convicted by a jury of his peers, and despite maintaining his innocence throughout the trial and its aftermath, Rolling Stone recently released audio where the actor, of his own accord, admits to strangling Jabari, slamming her into a car, and dragging her into their home during a different altercation than the one he went on trial for.
I'm ashamed. I've never wrestled with a woman before. Man, it's just, I've never wrestled with a woman. I aggressed.
You strangled me and pushed me against the car.
All those things are under aggressed.
Yeah.
This means not only did he do the things he was accused of doing, but he lied about it as well, several times. He's guilty. End of story. But as someone who believes in separating art from the artist, I don't believe that we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. Magazine Dreams was written, directed, and produced well before anyone knew anything was amiss with Jonathan Majors. The film is a magnificent piece of cinema that serves as a modern-day iteration of Martin Scorsese's seminal work Taxi Driver, only for the meathead set, and Majors' turn in it should be regarded with the same awe and appreciation as De Niro's in that film. I think it's one of the greatest cinematic shames of the past few years that work won't be appreciated because of a completely unrelated matter, especially when you take into account the double standard black actors and actresses deal with when it comes to things like this. Hollywood is rife with A-list celebrities that have been either accused or convicted of sexual assault or domestic violence, but while actors like Jonathan Majors struggle to recover, his non-black contemporaries are usually welcomed back by the business and the public with open arms, often achieving even greater success after the fact. Actors like Christian Slater, Josh Brolin, and most infamously Mel Gibson have all either allegedly or definitively committed violent acts toward women, but their transgressions have either been forgiven or forgotten in the wake of subsequent success. Christian Slater allegedly physically assaulted his girlfriend back in 1997 and has been accused of groping a woman on the street in
New York City
back in 2005. He's currently starring in the Dexter prequel series Dexter Original Sin, following a career resurgence thanks to the success of the USA show Mr. Robot. Josh Brolin was arrested back in 2004 for assaulting his then wife Diane Lane. Ironically enough, he'd go on to serve the same role that Majors was meant to serve in the MCU's second saga in its first, as the Infinity Gauntlet wielding villain Thanos, when he wasn't working with legendary filmmakers like the Coen brothers. Mel Gibson, well, we don't really have time to dive into everything he's been accused of, but suffice it to say that he's a well-known racist, anti-Semite, homophobe, sexual deviant, and domestic abuser, who is not only welcomed back by Hollywood, but rewarded with an Oscar nomination for his directorial work on the 2017 Andrew Garfield drama Hacksaw Ridge. But the most striking illustration of this double standard that comes to my mind happened way back in 2016. That year saw the release of two excellent films, the Casey Affleck starring Manchester by the Sea, and Nate Parker's Nat Turner biopic, The Birth of a Nation. Both films were fantastic, Oscar-worthy prestige pictures, but just as they were buzzing during that year's award circuit, both Casey Affleck and Nate Parker, a young black actor and director who was just getting his feet under him, were accused of sexual assault. Affleck for misconduct on he and Joaquin Phoenix's misguided mockumentary I'm Still Here back in 2010, and Parker for an incident that allegedly occurred during his college years at Penn State. Despite being on the line for similar allegations, and Parker having been acquitted of all charges years ago, Casey Affleck would go on to win the Best Actor Oscar in 2017 for his performance, while Nate Parker would promptly get canceled, his viscerally brutal feature-length directorial debut going on to perform about as well as Magazine Dreams. I don't bring these situations up to convince you that, as a consumer of art, you should support Jonathan Majors. That's a personal decision that every filmgoer has to make for themselves, but rather to encourage you to support this piece of work. Whether or not you think Majors should continue to be allowed to work in the film industry is a different matter altogether. While fellow actors like Whoopi Goldberg, Matthew McConaughey, and Majors' Creed 3 co-star Michael B. Jordan have all come out and publicly supported him following his convictions, you may feel differently, and that's fine. But audiences the world over are only hurting themselves by sleeping on Magazine Dreams. Let me know what you think about Jonathan Majors and Magazine Dreams down in the comment section below. Like me, do you believe in separating the art from the artist, or do you think we should ignore work from scummy people? Let me know. I'd also like to ask that, if you liked this video, please click the like button, press subscribe, ring the bell, and share it with a friend. I'd like to say thanks in advance. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.